Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to jump right into the science of how really tiny changes can lead to some absolutely remarkable results. We're going to break down a framework for building habits that, actually stick.
Okay, let's start with a feeling I'm pretty sure we've all had, the failed New Year's resolution. You know the one. We start off with these amazing intentions, but a staggering 80% of us end up giving up on our goals, usually by February. And it always feels like a failure of willpower, right?
But what if the problem was never you? What if it wasn't about your motivation at all, but about the method you were using? I mean, think about that for a second. This one idea changes everything. It suggests that what we really need is a better system, not just more grit.
And this leads us to this really powerful, kind of counterintuitive idea. Meaningful change doesn't come from some massive overnight transformation. Nope, it comes from the quiet buildup of tiny 1% improvements.
And to really see this in action, let's talk about the incredible turnaround of the British cycling team. For almost 100 years, they were completely unremarkable. Their performance was so bad that at one point, a top bike manufacturer actually refused to sell them bikes because they were afraid it would hurt their brand. Ouch.
Then, in 2003, this new performance director, Dave Brailsford, takes over. And he brought in a philosophy that was just deceptively simple, the aggregation of marginal gains. The whole idea was to find a 1% improvement in every single thing they did.
And when I say everything, I mean everything. They broke down every single component of riding a bike, trying to improve each little piece by just 1%. This meant focusing on all these tiny, overlooked details, like redesigning the bike seats to be more comfortable, testing different massage gels for better muscle recovery, and even finding the perfect pillow for each rider to get the best possible sleep.
Now, on their own, each of these changes seemed pretty minor, almost insignificant. But when they all compounded together, the effect was just astonishing. Just 5 years later, at the 2008 Beijing Olympics, the team won an insane 60% of the available gold medals. They then went on to win 5 Tour de France titles in 6 years. They became a dynasty, all built on tiny gains.
And here's the part that is just mind-blowing. The math here is staggering. Getting just 1% better each day for a year doesn't just make you 365% better. Because of the power of compounding, you end up 37 times better. Okay, so that's the why. But what about the how? How does this actually translate into a practical framework for us? Let's dive into the 4 laws of habits and see how you can use them to engineer your own change.
Every single habit you have, the good, the bad, all of them, follows the exact same 4-step feedback loop in your brain. It starts with a cue, which is just a trigger. That cue creates a craving, the motivation to act. This leads to a response, which is the habit itself, and finally, you get a reward, which satisfies that craving and basically tells your brain, hey, remember this, let's do it again.
The cool thing is we can basically hack this loop using 4 simple laws. To build a good habit, you make the cue obvious, the craving attractive, the response easy, and the reward satisfying. And if you want to break a bad habit, well, you just flip it on its head. Make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying.
But why? Why does this simple little framework work so incredibly well? Well, the answer isn't just in psychology. It's actually deep inside the physical structure of our brains.
It all comes down to this incredible concept called neuroplasticity. We used to think the adult brain was basically fixed, like it was set in stone. But now we know it's constantly changing. Our brains are physically forming and strengthening new connections based on the things we do over and over again. Think of it like this. Each time you do a habit, you're strengthening a specific path in your brain. Over time, that path becomes a really well-worn road. And your brain, which is always looking for the most efficient way to do things, starts to automatically take this path of least resistance. That's why habits eventually start to feel so automatic, almost thoughtless. And the chemical that fuels this whole process? It's dopamine. Now, it's often called the feel-good hormone, but it's really more like the hormone of motivation. When we do something rewarding, our brain releases a little bit of dopamine, which essentially puts a tag on that behavior, marking it as something worth remembering and, more importantly, repeating. And this brings us right back to our framework. That 4th law, make it satisfying, is the absolute key for locking in a new habit. Why? Because that satisfying reward gives you that immediate dopamine hit that tells your brain, hey, pay attention, do that again. So, All of this leads us to the final and honestly, maybe the most important shift in thinking. It's about moving beyond just what you want to achieve and really focusing on who you want to become.
Goals are great for setting a direction, sure, but it's the systems that actually make progress happen. There's this great saying, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Goals are a finish line. Systems are the process you follow every single day.
See, the ultimate form of motivation isn't chasing one single accomplishment. It's building a new identity. The goal isn't just to write a book. It's to become the kind of person who writes every day. Every little action you take is like casting a vote for the type of person you want to become.
So as we wrap up here, the real question isn't about what massive, life-altering change you're going to make tomorrow. It's about the smallest possible step, that tiny 1% improvement you can take right now. What's the one tiny vote you're going to cast for the person you want